梁歌制作，杜婉香，作者丁玲。一枝红杏。春天来了，春风带着黄沙在原上飞驰，干燥的空气把仅有的一点水蒸气吸干了，地上裂开了缝，人们望着老天叹气。
Production by Bilingual, Du Wanxiang, author, Ding Ling. A branch of red apricot. Spring is here, and the spring breeze carries yellow sand and flies on the plateau. The dry air sucks away the little water vapor, cracks open on the ground, and people look at the sky and sigh.
可是草却不声不响地从这个缝隙那个缝隙钻了出来，一小片一小片地染绿了大地，树芽也慢慢伸长，灰色的土色的山沟沟里不断地传出汩汩的流水声音。
But the grass quietly came out of this gap, and the ground was dyed green in small patches, and the tree buds slowly stretched, and in the gray and earth-colored ravines, there was a constant sound. The sound of gurgling water.
一条细细的溪水寂寞地滴滴吟诵。那条贱货走过一小群一小群牛羊的陡峭的山路，一亿里里，高高低低。从路边乱石垒的短墙里伸出一枝盛开的耀眼的红杏，惹得沟这边沟那边。
A thin stream chanted lonely and low. The steep mountain road that occasionally passes small groups of cattle and sheep is winding and winding, high and low. From the short wall of rubble on the roadside, a dazzling red apricot in full bloom protruded, causing confusion on this side of the ditch and on the other side of the ditch.
上坡下沟的人们投过欣喜的眼光。啊，这就是春天，压不住，动不垮，干不死的春天。万物总是这样倔强地迎着阳光抬起头来，挺起身躯，显示出他们生命的力量。杜家8岁的那个晚香闺女。
People walking uphill and down the ditch cast their eyes with joy. Oh! This is spring, a spring that cannot be suppressed, frozen, or dry. All things always raise their heads and stand upright towards the sunshine stubbornly, showing the power of their life. The 8-year-old evening-scented daughter of the Du family.
在后母鲜艳的眼光、厉声的呵斥声和突然降临的耳光拳头中，已经挨过了3年，居然能担负许多家务劳动了。他也就在劳动里边享受着劳动的乐趣。
After 3 years of enduring the disgusting looks, stern scoldings, and sudden slaps from her stepmother, she was able to take on a lot of housework, and she also enjoyed the joy of labor.
他能下到半里地的深沟里担上大半担水，把他父亲的这副担子完全接了过来。每天中午他又担着小小饭食担儿爬到3里高的原上送给刨地的父亲。父亲是爱他的。
She could go down to a deep ditch half a mile away and carry most of the load of water, completely taking over her father's burden. At noon every day, she would climb up to the plateau 3 miles high with a small load of food and give it to the planers. The father of the earth. Her father loves her.
却只能暗暗地用同情的眼光默默望着这可爱的闺女。可是晚香这个小女子并不注意这些，只尽情享受着辽阔的蓝天和蓝天上飞逝的白云。这远可大咧，一直望到天尽头。
But he could only look at this lovely girl secretly with sympathetic eyes. But Wanxiang, a little girl, didn't pay attention to this. She only enjoyed the vast blue sky and the white clouds flying in the blue sky. This plateau is so vast that you can see all the way to the end of the sky.
满个高原平展展，零零星星，有些同他父亲差不多的穷汉们弯着腰在这儿在那儿侍弄地块，还有散散落落几十只、10几只绵羊在一些没有开垦过的地边找草吃，多舒坦啊！小小眼睛。
The high plateau was spread out, with here and there some poor men similar to her father, bending over to tend the plots here and there, and there were dozens or even a dozen sheep scattered in some uncultivated land, looking for grass to eat. How comfortable! Little eyes.
一双像古画上的丹凤眼那么一双单眼皮的长长的眼睛向四方搜罗，几只大鹰漫天盘旋，一会在头顶，一会又不见了。它们飞到哪里去了呢？是不是找妈妈去了？妈妈总有一天要回来的。
A pair of long eyes with single eyelids, like the phoenix eyes in ancient paintings, searched in all directions. Several big eagles were circling all over the sky. Sometimes they were above the head, and then they disappeared again. Where did they fly to? Did they go to find their mother? She will come back one day.
妈妈的眼睛多柔和，妈妈的手多温暖，妈妈的话语多亲切，睡在妈妈的怀里是多么的香甜啊！晚香3年没有妈妈了，白天想念她，半夜梦见她。
Mother's eyes are so soft, mother's hands are so warm, mother's words are so kind, and sleeping in mother's arms is so sweet. Wanxiang has not had her mother for 3 years. She misses her during the day and dreams about her in the middle of the night.
她什么时候回来啊？晚香从来就相信自己的想法，妈妈有事去外婆家了，妈妈总有一天会回来的。一到了海阔天空的原上，这些想法就像大鹰一样自由飞翔。
When will she come back? Wanxiang has always believed in her own thoughts. If her mother goes to her grandmother's house for something, her mother will come back one day. Once we reach the plateau where the sea and sky are vast, these thoughts fly freely like an eagle.
天真的幼小的心灵是多么的舒畅啊！晚香就是这样，像一只红杏，不管风残雨暴，黄沙遍野，它总是在那乱石墙后争先恐后的怒放出来，以它的鲜艳唤醒这荒凉的山沟，给受苦人以安慰。
How comfortable the innocent young mind is. Evening fragrance is like this, like a branch of red apricot. No matter it is windy, rainy, or yellow sand is everywhere, she always rushes to bloom behind the stone wall, awakening the desolate ravine with her bright color, and giving comfort to the suffering people. Comfort.
而且鼓舞着他们去做向往光明的遐想。做媳妇，1年过去又1年，5年了，晚香满了13岁。由后母做主许给对门园那边什么地方一个姓李的家里做媳妇。
And it inspires them to dream about the light. Being a daughter-in-law. 1 year passed, another year passed, and 5 years passed. When Wanxiang turned 13, her stepmother decided to marry her to a family named Li somewhere in the opposite country.
那天，他背了一个很小很小的包袱，里边放一件旧褂子，一条旧单裤，一双旧鞋，一个缺齿的木梳，一块手心那么大的小镜子，跟着父亲走出了家门。正是冬天，山沟里的人家都关着门。
That day she carried a very small bag, which contained an old coat, an old pair of trousers, a pair of old shoes, a wooden comb with missing teeth, and a small mirror as big as the palm of her hand, and followed her father out of the house. It was winter, and all the houses in the ravine were closed.
只有村头那家的老爷爷站在门口等着他们过去，还对他说了一句：“乡女呵。”去到李家，听人家的话，规规矩矩做人家的事，不要惹人生气才是啊！就这样一个人，一句话。
Only the old man from the house at the head of the village stood at the door waiting for them to pass by, and said to her, "Fragrant girl, go to Li's house, listen to others, do their own things in a good manner, and don't make others angry." Yes. Just such a person, one sentence.
的确使得心硬的婉香眼角疼了一阵。她把这话，把这老人的声音相貌永远刻在脑子里了，尽管她后来一直也没有见到过他。这就是他生活了13年的偏僻的穷山沟对他唯一的送别。
It did make the hard-hearted Wanxiang's eyes hurt for a while. She etched these words and the old man's voice and appearance in her mind forever, even though she never saw him again. This was her only farewell to the remote poor valley where she had lived for 13 years.
原上纷纷下开了雪，父亲一句话也不说，只在前边默默地走。他舍不得这小闺女到人家去做媳妇，也想到自己对不住她死去了的娘，他没有按照他的心愿好好看成这闺女。
Snow began to fall on the plateau, and my father didn't say a word, just walked silently ahead. He couldn't bear to let this little girl become someone else's wife, and he also thought that he felt sorry for her dead mother, because he didn't take a good look at this girl as she wished.
可是他觉得一切事情都不如他的愿望，他没有一点办法，就让他凭命去吧。路不尽，婉香吃力地在寒冷的原上，迎着朔风，踏着雪地上的爹的脚印朝前走。
But he felt that everything was not as he wished, and there was nothing he could do about it. Just leave her to her fate. The road was not close, so Wanxiang trudged on the cold plateau, facing the early wind, and walked forward by following her father's footprints in the snow.
他懂得他就要踏入另一个世界了。他对新的生活没有幻想，可是他也不怕。他觉得自己已经不小了，能经受住一切。他也看见过做媳妇的人，他能劳动，他能吃苦。
She knew she was about to enter another world. She has no illusions about her new life, but she is not afraid either. She felt that she was no longer young and could withstand everything. She also saw people who were wives. She can work and endure hardship.
她就能不管闯到什么陌生的环境里都能对付。她是一棵在风霜里面生长的小树，她是一只早春的红杏，反正她是一个失去了母亲的孤女，公公婆婆、大姑小叔也无非是另一个后母。
She can deal with any unfamiliar environment she enters. She is a small tree growing in the wind and frost. She is a branch of red apricot in early spring. Anyway, she is an orphan girl who has lost her mother. Her parents-in-law, aunts and uncles are just another stepmother.
李家是一个人口众多的人家，老两口有4个儿子和4个孙子，婉香是他们小儿子的媳妇。虽说是穷人家，可比婉香家过得宽裕多了。他们有20来亩地，自种自吃。
The Li family is a large family. The old couple has 4 sons and 4 grandsons. Wanxiang is the daughter-in-law of their youngest son. Although they are a poor family, they are much better off than Wanxiang's family. They have about 20 acres of land, and they grow and eat by themselves.
他们替小儿子和新来的儿媳妇在他们的房子里砌了一盘小炕。婉香有生以来第一次铺了床新赶的羊毛毡，她摸着那短毛的硬毡，觉得非常暖和。3个嫂嫂看见她瘦弱的身体都叹气。
They built a small kong in their house for their youngest son and their new daughter-in-law. For the first time in her life, Wanxiang made a bed of newly rolled wool felt. She felt the short-haired hard felt and felt very warm. The 3 sisters-in-law sighed when they saw her thin body.
这毛丫头能干什么？50块大洋还不如买头毛驴。婉香不多说话，看着周围的事物，听着家人的议论，心里有数。婆婆领着她，教她做着家里各种各样的活儿。婉香安详的、从容不迫的担水。
What can this little girl do? $50 would be better than buying a donkey. Wanxiang didn't talk much. She looked at the things around her and listened to her family's discussions. She knew what was going on in her heart. Her mother-in-law led her and taught her to do various tasks at home. Wanxiang calmly carried out her tasks. Water.
烧火、刷锅做饭、喂鸡喂猪，不久就同几个嫂嫂一样的值班上灶。轮班到他的日子，他站在小板凳上，一样把全家10几人的饭食做得停停当当，一样能担着满担水、米汤和饭食上坡下沟。
Light the fire, wash the pots and cook, feed the chickens and pigs. Soon I was on duty like several sisters-in-law and worked on the stove. On days when her shift came, she would stand on a small bench and cook meals for a dozen people in the family. She could also carry loads of water, rice soup and meals uphill and down ditches.
他在地里学着讲旁、离、义，他总能悄悄地赶上旁人。公公是一个好把式，也挑剔不出他什么毛病。嫂嫂们都是尖嘴薄舌，也说不出他什么。晚香就在这个小山沟又扎下根来，勤勤恳恳。
She learned to weed, plow, and mow in the fields, and she could always catch up with others quietly. My father-in-law is a good person, and he can't find anything wrong with her. The sisters-in-law were all sharp-tongued and could not say anything good about her. Evening fragrance took root again in this small ravine, working diligently.
为这一大家子人常年不息地劳累着。这个新的小山沟，如今就是他全部的世界，外边的惊天动地、改天换地，并没有震动过这偏僻的山沟。
I have been working hard for this big family for many years. This new small ravine is now her entire world. The earth-shaking changes outside have not shaken this remote ravine.
公公有时也把在村上听到的一星半点的消息带回家来，但这些新闻对于一个蒙昧的小女子，也无非像原上的风、沟里的水吹过去、淌下来那样平平常常。但风越吹越大，水越流越响。
Sometimes my father-in-law would bring home bits and pieces of news he heard in the village, but to an ignorant little girl, these news were as ordinary as the wind on the plateau or the water in the ditch blowing and flowing down. However, the wind blows louder and louder, and the water flows louder and louder.
而且临到了每个偏僻的大小山沟，这里加沟也不由自己的卷进去了。这沟里没有地主，没有富农，少数地块是自己的，大片大片的是租种别村的。现在忽然来了解放军、共产党工作队。
And it came to every remote mountain ravine. Lajiagu couldn't help but get involved. There are no landlords or rich farmers in this ditch. A few plots of land are owned by oneself, and large tracts are rented from other villages. Now suddenly the People's Liberation Army, the Communist Party, and the work teams came.
忽然地亩这块那块都归种地的人了。晚香家里按人口也分进了不少地。公公婆婆成天咧开着嘴，老俩口天天爬到原上，走过这个地块，又走过那个地块，看了这片庄稼，又看那片庄稼。
Suddenly, acres and acres of land belonged to those who farmed them. Wanxiang's family was also allocated a lot of land based on their population. My father-in-law and mother-in-law kept their mouths open all day long, and the old couple climbed up to the plateau every day, walking past this field and then that field, looking at this crop and that crop.
绿油油，黄灿灿，这是什么世界啊？有这样的好事？晚香一时半刻是不能深刻体会老人们的心意的，可是全家分到土地的喜悦 感染着他，他也兴致勃勃地忙碌着。不久，解放军扩军了。
Green and yellow, what kind of world is this? Such a good thing. Wanxiang could not deeply understand the feelings of the old people for a while, but the joy of the family being allocated land infected her, and she was busy with enthusiasm. Soon, the People's Liberation Army expanded.
只听人人说什么抗美援朝，抗美援朝，晚香还来不及懂得这个新名词，李家的小儿子就报名参军了。两个老人说这是应该的，我们家有4个儿子。于是不久
Just listen to what everyone says about resisting U.S. aggression and aiding Korea. To resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea, before Wanxiang had time to understand this new term, the youngest son of the Li family signed up to join the army. The 2 old men said that this is what they should do. We have 4 sons in our family. So soon.
晚香的丈夫李丹就披红戴花辞别了这高原深沟。这是1951年的事，那时晚香17岁了。妈妈回来了。就在这个时候，又来了土改复查工作队。工作队里有个中年妇女。
Wanxiang's husband Li Dan said goodbye to this high plateau and deep ditch wearing red and flowers. This happened in 1951, when Wanxiang was 17 years old. Mom is back. At this time, another land reform review team came. There is a middle-aged woman in the work team.
这个女同志落脚晚香家里，睡在晚香那小炕上。她白天跟着他们爬坡种地，烧饭喂猪，晚上教村里妇女识字。没有一个妇女能比晚香更上心的，她看中了这个17岁的小媳妇。
This lesbian settled in Wanxiang's house and slept on Wanxiang's small kong. She followed them uphill and farmed during the day. He cooks and feeds the pigs, and teaches the village women how to read in the evening. No woman could be more interested in her than Wanxiang. She took a fancy to this 17-year-old daughter-in-law.
夜夜同她谈半宵，晚香听得心里着实喜欢。她打开了心中的窗户，她看得远了，想得高了。她觉得能为更多的人做事，比为一家人做事更高兴。这个女同志又再三劝说。
After chatting with her for half a night every night, Wanxiang really liked what she heard. She opened the window in her heart. She saw farther and thought higher. She feels more happy doing things for more people than for one family. The lesbian persuaded her again and again.
公公婆婆只得答应让晚香去县上住了3个月的训练班。她回来时变得更为稳定和坚强，外表看起来却又比小时更温顺谦和，总是带着微微的含蓄的笑容，好像对一切人一切事。
Her father-in-law and mother-in-law had no choice but to agree to let Wanxiang go to the county to attend a training class where she stayed for 3 months. When she came back, she became more stable and stronger, but her appearance was gentler and more modest than when she was young, always with a slightly reserved smile. It seems to be true for everyone and everything.
对生化怀着甜甜的心意，人们都会自然地望着她，诧异地猜想她到底遇着什么高兴的试炼。的确是的，晚香好像又回到了妈妈怀里似的，现在有人关心她了，照顾她了，对她满怀着希望。
Have a sweet heart for life. People would naturally look at her and wonder what happy thing happened to her in surprise. Indeed, Wanxiang seems to have returned to her mother's arms. Now someone cares about her, takes care of her, and is full of hope for her.
她像一个在妈妈面前学步的孩子，走一步望一步，感到周围都在注视着她，替她使力，鼓舞着她。 她不再是一个孤儿，一个孤零零，只知道劳动。
She was like a child learning to walk in front of her mother. She took a step and looked around, feeling that everyone around her was watching her, working hard for her, and encouraging her. She is no longer an orphan, alone and knows only labor.
随时都要避免恶声的斥责和狠毒的打骂的可怜人了。现在是温暖的春风吹遍了原野，白云在蓝天浮游，山间小路好似康庄大道。晚香白天跟在兄嫂们后边讲捧离意。
The poor man must avoid harsh scoldings and vicious beatings at all times. Now the warm spring breeze is blowing all over the wilderness, white clouds are floating in the blue sky, and the mountain paths are like broad roads. Wanxiang followed her brothers and sisters-in-law during the day, plowing and mowing.
挑着担儿爬上爬下，晚上走家串户，学着那些工作队的人们宣传党和政府的各项政策。他懂得就现身说法，他还不懂的就把听来的生吞活剥的逐条念一遍。他当了妇女组长。
Carrying burdens up and down, going from house to house at night, imitating the people of the work teams, and publicizing various policies of the party and the government. If she understands, she will speak out from her own experience. If she still doesn't understand, she will read everything she has heard. She became the leader of the women's group.
又当了妇女主任，这个村才20来户人家，她得把全村的一半人的心意摸透。随后，她被吸收参加了共产党。她有了真正的妈妈，她就在这个村里慢慢的成长，她生活在这里。
She also became the women's director. There were only about 20 households in this village, so she had to figure out the feelings of half of the people in the village. She was subsequently recruited into the Communist Party. She has a real mother, she is growing up slowly in this village, and she lives here.
就像鱼在水里一样，自由、安适。没有一个人小看她，也没有一个人不服她。1954年，那个抗美援朝的志愿军回来了，天天晚上向村里的大伯小叔、哥哥弟弟。
Just like a fish in water, free and comfortable. No one looked down upon her, and no one was dissatisfied with her. In 1954, the volunteer soldier who fought against U.S. aggression and aided Korea came back. Every night he went to the village to visit his uncles, brothers, and brothers. 讲
述一些闻所未闻的战斗故事，大家把他看成非凡的人。晚香知道他是同志，他的心几乎跳出来了。他不再把他看成只是过日子的伙伴，而是能终身依靠的两个有着共同理想。
Telling some unheard battle stories, everyone saw him as an extraordinary man. Wanxiang knew that he was comrade, and her heart almost jumped out of her chest. She no longer regards him as just a life partner, but as two people who share the same ideals and can rely on for life.
共同言语的神圣关系的人。李贵没住几天，便到四川上学去了，学文化，学政治，学军事。党要培养这批从朝鲜回来的勇敢而忠诚的战士。
People who share a sacred relationship of speech. Li Gui didn't stay for a few days before going to school in Sichuan to study culture, politics, and military affairs. The party must cultivate this group of brave and loyal warriors who returned from North Korea.
使他们几年后成为一批有实战经验的初级军事干部。杜晚香仍旧留在这个闭塞的小山沟，他为他们一大家子人辛勤地劳动着，他又为这个山村的妇女工作而奔波，年复一年。
In a few years, they will become a group of junior military cadres with practical combat experience. Du Wanxiang still stayed in this small, closed ravine. She worked hard for their whole family, and she also worked hard for the women in this mountain village. Year after year.
他是否就在这条山沟里，随着他的建设和发展，缓缓地按部就班地走向社会主义、共护主义社会呢？飞向北大荒。1958年的春天，李家沟全村人都在谈论一件新鲜事。
Is she in this ravine, with its construction and development, slowly and step by step moving towards socialism and communism society? Flying to the great northern wilderness. In the spring of 1958, the whole village in Lijiagu was talking about a new thing.
李贵从四川的军事学校集体转业到东北的什么北大荒去了。小小的村里，各种猜测都有，那是什么地方啊？远在几千里的边戍，那是古时候犯罪的人充军流放的地方，就是受苦的地方。
Li Gui collectively transferred from the military school in Sichuan to the great northern wilderness in the northeast. There are all kinds of speculations in the small village. What kind of place is that? The border garrison, thousands of miles away, was a place where criminals in ancient times were exiled and suffered.
李贵这孩子是咋搞的？抗美援朝，打过仗，受过苦，是有功的人，怎么却转业到那里去呢？这是大约不好。从李贵的信上来看，也看不出什么头绪，只说是支援边疆建设，叫媳妇也去。
What happened to this kid Li Gui? He resisted U.S. aggression and aided Korea, fought in wars, suffered hardships, and was a meritorious person. Why did he change his job and end up there? This is probably not good. Judging from Li Gui's letter, there is no clue. He only said that he wanted to support border construction and asked his wife to go too.
这能去吗？北大荒，北大荒究竟在哪里呢？听说那里是极冷极冷的地方，6月还下雪，冬天冰死人，风都会把人卷走。说摸鼻子，鼻子就掉；摸耳朵，耳朵也就下来。
Can we go to the Great Northern Wilderness? The Great Northern Wilderness, where exactly is it? I heard that it is a very cold place. It snows in June and is freezing in winter. The wind will sweep people away. If you touch your nose, it will fall off. Touch the ears and the ears will come down.
嫂嫂们用同情的眼光望着晚香，那是不能去的。公公婆婆也说，媳妇要是再走，儿子就更不容易回家了，还是向上级要求转业就转回老家吧。村里党支部同志也说，不一定去。
The sisters-in-law looked at Wanxiang with sympathy, saying they couldn't go there. The father-in-law and mother-in-law also said that if the daughter-in-law left again, it would be more difficult for the son to return home. It was better to ask his superiors to change his job and return to his hometown. Comrades from the village party branch also said that they would not necessarily go.
去那里当家属没意思，不如留在村上做工作。晚香默默地含着微笑，听着这各种各样的议论和劝说，最后才说：“妈，爸，还是让我去看看，好歹我能告诉你们真情况。李贵能去的地方。”
It's boring to go there to be a family member, so it's better to stay in the village and do work. Wanxiang smiled silently, listening to all kinds of discussions and persuasion, and finally said, "Mom, Dad, let me go and take a look. At least I can tell you the real situation. Where Li Gui can go."
我有什么不能去？李贵是集体转业，那就不止他一个人，而是有许许多多的人。那么多人能住的地方，我有什么不能住？去建设边疆吗？建设就是工作，我不会吃现成饭。村上的工作。
What I can't say is that Li Gui changed jobs collectively. He is not the only one, but there are many people. There is a place where so many people can live. Why can't I live and build the frontier? Construction is work, and I won't eat ready-made meals. Murakami's work.
能做的人也多，有我没我是一个样。我看我是去定了。公公婆婆众人看他意志坚定，只得同意他。他仍旧背着一个小包袱，里面放几件换洗衣服、梳头洗脸零用东西，几个玉米饼子。
There are many people who can do it, and they are the same without me. I see, I'm going to order it. Father-in-law and mother-in-law, everyone saw that she was determined and had to agree with her. She was still carrying a small bag, which contained a few changes of clothes, some snacks for combing her hair and washing her face, and a few corn cakes.
还有李贵寄来的钱，离别了在这里生长20多年的故乡。公公陪他走几十里路到天水车站，嘱咐他到了地方千万详详细细写信回来。火车隆隆地奔驰向东，不断的远山。
There was also money sent by Li Gui, who said goodbye to his hometown where he had grown up here for more than 20 years. Her father-in-law walked dozens of miles with her to Tianshui station and told her to write a letter back in detail when she got there. The train rumbled eastward. Continuous distant mountains.
一层一层向后飞逝，车两边的道路原野无尽的一片一片的移进来，又急速的流过去。天怎么这样蓝？白云一团一团的聚在空中，可是又随着转动的蓝天袅袅的不见了。
Flying backward layer by layer. The roads and fields on both sides of the car were endless, moving closer and then flowing past rapidly. Why is the sky so blue? White clouds gather in the sky, but they disappear with the turning of the blue sky.
一忽又是一团一团新的白云涌上来。晚香过去，常常在原上看到辽阔的天空，也极目天地的尽头。可是现在却是走不完、看不完的变化多景的山川河流、田野树林，风是这样软。
Suddenly, new white clouds came up. Wanxiang used to see the vast sky on the plateau, and see the end of the world, but now she can't see the endless mountains, rivers, fields and woods, the ever-changing scenery, and the wind is so soft.
一阵一阵从车窗口吹进来，微微飘动她额前的短发，轻拂着她绯红的脸颊。太阳红彤彤地浮在西边天上，火车在转向北方时，那漫天火一样的红光直照到车窗里边。
Waves of wind blew in from the car window, slightly fluttering the short hair on her forehead and brushing her crimson cheeks. The sun was shining brightly in the western sky. When the train turned north, the red light like fire in the sky shone directly into the window.
透明而又好似照在一层轻雾里边，那个射着金光的火球慢慢沉下去了。天像张着的一个大网，紫色的雾上升了，两边又呈现出暗青色，黄昏了，夜正在降临。火车走过了一个小站。
It is transparent and seems to be covered in a layer of light mist. The fireball with golden light slowly sank. The sky looks like a big net, the purple fog rises, and dark cyan appears on both sides. Dusk is falling, and night is falling. The train passed a small station.
又一个小站，一座大城市，又一座大城市。无数的人群牵着孩子，扶着老人，背着大包小包，跑到站台，拥进车厢，坐在刚腾空出来的座位上。可是在车站上又有了一列长长的队伍。
Another small station, one big city after another. Countless people, holding children and elderly people in their hands, carrying large and small bags, ran to the platform, crowded into the carriages, and sat on the newly vacated seats. But there was another long queue at the station.
在歌唱伟大的祖国的乐曲声中走过检票的地方，刺目的灯光在站台照耀着，火车又开动了。远远近近，遮遮掩掩的繁星，又比繁星还亮的闪闪的灯光，更是一大团一大团的掠过。
Walking through the ticket-checking area to the sound of music singing about our great motherland. Dazzling lights were shining on the platform, and the train was moving again. Far and near, the stars were covering the sky, and the shining lights that were brighter than the stars were passing by in large groups.
呵，祖国，祖国啊！您是这样的辽阔，这样的雄伟，这样的神秘和迷人啊！杜婉香从一个小山沟被抛到这么一个新的连做梦也想不到的宇宙里来了。他紧张的顾不上多看，来不及细想。
Ha! Motherland, motherland. You are so vast, so majestic, so mysterious and charming. Du Wanxiang was thrown from a small ravine into this new universe that she could not even dream of. She was too nervous to look at it and didn't have time to think about it.
好像精疲力竭，却又神情振奋，两个眼睛瞪得大大的，好像有使不完的力量。他就这样坐在车上，吃一点带的玉米饼，喝一点白开水。他随着人流出站进站，下车上车，3天3夜过去。
He seemed exhausted, but his expression was uplifted. His eyes were wide open, as if he had endless power. She just sat in the car, eating some tortillas and drinking some boiled water. She followed the flow of people, entering and exiting the station, getting off the bus and getting on the bus. 3 days and nights passed.
同车旅客告诉他，北大荒到了。啊，北大荒到了。这是什么地方？火车停在道轨上，车站和站台两边的雪地里排满了各种各样的红色的、绿色的、蓝色的、黑色的。
A fellow passenger in the car told her that Bedawang had arrived. Oh, Bedawang has arrived. What is this place? The train stopped on the track, and the station and the snow on both sides of the platform were lined with all kinds of red, green, blue, and black trains.
叫不出名字来的像房子那样大，比房子还要大的机器。机器上面覆盖着绿色的、黄色的、灰色的雨布，雨布上存留着厚厚一层积雪。到处都围着一圈一圈的人，穿大衣的，穿棉衣的。
An unnamed machine as big as a house or bigger than a house. The machine was covered with green, yellow, and gray raincloths, and there was a thick layer of snow on the raincloths. There were circles of people everywhere, people wearing coats and cotton-padded clothes.
大皮帽下面露出闪光的眼睛，张着大嘴笑呵呵，他们彼此都像很熟识。只听这个人问：“你是哪个农场的？”那个说：“呵，看啊，这几台洛阳东方红是给我们厂的。”远处又在喊：“喂，这是什么机器？”
Shining eyes were exposed under the big fur hat, and they were smiling with their mouths open. They all seemed to know each other very well. One person asked, "Which farm are you from?" The other said, "Ha! Look! These Luoyang Oriental Hong is playing for us." Someone in the distance shouted again, "Hey, what kind of machine is this?"
哪国造车我们要国产的。还有人说：“你哪天回厂，赶着把豆种和拖拉机零件都运走，家里等着。”远远近近一群一群的人喊着号子， 扛着抬着什么东西往汽车上装，大包小包装满了汽车。
Which country makes it? We want domestically produced ones. Others said, You will return to the field one day and rush to transport the bean seeds and tractor parts. Waiting at home. Groups of people from far and near shouted slogans and carried something to the farm. Car clothes. Large and small packages filled the car.
出厂不久的解放牌，大轮上绕着防滑铁链，一队一队开走了。站外的汽车停车场真说不来有多宽有多大，汽车就像大匣子似的，密密麻麻，全是10个轱辘的大卡车。一打问，哎呀！
The big wheels of the Jifang brand, which had just left the factory, were wrapped with anti-skid iron chains and drove off in groups. I really can't say how wide or big the car parking lot outside the station is. The cars are like a big box, densely packed, and they are all big trucks with 10 wheels. When I asked about it, I said, ah.
都是农场的，是哪个农场的却说不清，这里农场可多咧。站在坡上一望，路就像蜘蛛网似的从这里向四面八方延伸出去，这么多条路通到哪里去呢？通到农场吗？街道不多。
They are all from farms, but I can't tell which farm they are from. There are many farms here. Standing on the slope and looking around, the roads extend out in all directions from here like a spider web. Where do these many roads lead to? They lead to the farm. There are not many streets.
铺子也不算多，可是路宽着咧，路两边都挖有排水沟，沟边栽着小白桦树，整整齐齐，都是新栽的。街道上的人像赶会一样，拥挤得很。这里的人真怪，买东西都捡着那几样东西买，热水瓶。
There are not many shops, but the road is wide, with drainage ditches dug on both sides of the road. Small white birch trees are planted neatly beside the ditch, and they are all newly planted. The streets were crowded with people, as if they were attending a party. The people here are so weird. When shopping, they only buy those few things, including thermos bottles.
饭盒、防蚊帽、花毛巾，买的卖的都像老熟人一样。常常听见售货员亲切地问：“春麦播上了吗？新到的防蚊油，广州来的，顶有效。”买的也问：“依兰镰刀有了吗？雨季麦收，我们要得多咧。”
Lunch boxes, anti-mosquito hats, floral towels, everyone buys and sells them like old acquaintances. I often hear the salesperson ask kindly, "Has the spring wheat been sown?" The newly arrived anti-mosquito oil is from Guangzhou. It is very effective. Buyers also ask, "Do you have the ylang sickle for the rainy season wheat harvest?" We need more.
最热闹的地方，数豆浆油条小铺子。从火车上下来的，从汽车上下来的，住招待所的，都爱来这里喝一碗热豆浆，吃2根刚出锅的炸油条。这里也是交换新闻的好地方。
The busiest place is the soy milk and fried dough sticks shop. People who get off the train, get off the bus, and stay in the guest house all like to come here to drink a bowl of hot soy milk and eat 2 fried dough sticks freshly out of the pan. It's also a great place to exchange news.
新闻也就是一个方面的农场。听说你们那里来了转业军官，上甘岭战斗的英雄呀。听说部长又来了，到某某农场去了。来了，到我们厂去的。部长一来，不到厂部，不进办公室。
The news is about one aspect, the farm. I heard that you have a retired officer, a hero who fought in Shanganling. I heard that the minister is here again, going to XX farm. Here it comes. Come to our place. When the minister comes, he does not go to the department or enter the office.
还是当年开垦南泥湾的那股劲头，坐着小吉普先到地头，看整地质量、脉搏质量，又一头扎进驾驶棚，亲自试车，检查机车、农具的保养质量和拖拉机手。农具手们说说笑笑，热乎着呢。
I still had the same enthusiasm as when I reclaimed Nanawan. I took a small jeep and went to the field first to check the quality of land preparation and wheat sowing. Then I plunged into the cab and tried it out myself, checking the maintenance quality of the locomotive and farm tools, as well as the tractor operator and farm tools. The hands were chatting and laughing, and it was very exciting.
我刚到农场，思想不稳定，不知怎样让部长知道了。他找到我住的马架子，和我谈道：“你们当年打过仗，有过功，现在在这里屯垦戍边，向地球开战，同大自然搏斗，搞共产主义社会。”
I had just arrived at the farm and was mentally unstable. I didn't know how to let the minister know. He found Majiao where I lived and talked to me. You fought in the war and made meritorious deeds. Now you are here to cultivate and guard the border, wage war on the earth, fight against nature, and build a communist society.
这是豪迈的事业，要有豪情壮志，要干一辈子。子孙万代都会怀念你们，感谢你们。我听部长的话，把爱人、小孩都接来了。就在这里扎根落户于一辈子了，哈哈。去年麦收时，连月阴雨。
This is a heroic career that requires great ambition and a lifetime of work. You will be missed by generations to come, thank you. I listened to the minister's words, brought my wife and children here, and settled down here for the rest of my life, haha. During the wheat harvest last year, it rained continuously for months.
队里人，即初期上阵，我们队一个转业排长，却拿上镰刀，坐在道边树荫下看书。一会过来一个老汉，手拿镰刀，脚穿解放鞋，裤腿卷起，看见了问他为什么在这里看书，不下地。他答道
The men, machines, and animals in the team all went into battle. A platoon leader in our team who had retired from the profession took a sickle and sat in the shade of a tree by the roadside, reading a book. After a while, an old man came over, holding a sickle in his hand, wearing jifang shoes, and rolled up his trouser legs. He saw it and asked him, "Why are you reading here instead of going to the ground?" He replied,
谁乐意干谁干吧，我不去。老汉停步问，这是龙口夺脉，大家都去，你为什么不去？他回答说，就是不乐意。老汉发火了，猛地喊道，你不去，我关你禁闭。他说，你管不了我，你算老几？
Whoever is willing to do it can do it, I won't go. The old man stopped and asked, This is Lonko to seize wheat. Everyone is going, why don't you go? He replied, I just don't like it. The old man got angry and shouted, If you don't go, I will put you in solitary confinement. He said, You can't control me, you are the boss.
老汉笑道，我是王震，管得了你吗？排长吓一跳，拿起镰刀就跑，满心惭愧，到地里见人便说，部长怎么。这天他创纪录割了3亩5分地。杜婉香听到这些，也跟着笑。
The old man smiled and said, I am Wang Zhen, can I control you? The platoon leader was frightened, picked up the sickle and ran away. He was full of shame. When he saw people in the field, he said, What's wrong with the minister? He set a record for cutting this day. 3 acres and 5 cents of land. When Du Wanxiang heard this, she also laughed.
把这些最初的印象刻在心的深处了。豆浆铺里的顾客走了一批，又换来一批，从早晨4点到晚上8点。怎么早晨4点就有人？原来北大荒天亮的早，再往后3点就天亮了。
These first impressions are engraved deep in my heart. A group of customers in the soy milk shop left and another group came in, from 4 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the evening. How come there are people there at 4 o'clock in the morning? It turns out that the sun rises early in Beidawang and then at 3 o'clock.
天一亮就有人动弹，谁能等到太阳老高才起炕？现在这里的早晨是一天的最好时辰。4点，往后是3点、2点，东边天上就微微露出一线，一片透明的白光。
There are people moving as soon as the sun breaks. Who can wait until the sun is high before getting up from the Kong? Morning here is now the best time of the day. At 4 o'clock, and later at 3 o'clock and 2 o'clock, a thin line of transparent white light appeared in the eastern sky.
微风带着融雪时使人舒适的清凉，带着苏醒了的树林泛出来的陈酒式的香味扑入鼻孔，沁入心中。白光慢慢变成绯色了，天空上的星星没有了，远远近近传来小鸟的啾唧。
The breeze brings the comfortable coolness of melting snow, and the aroma like old wine from the awakening woods blows into the nostrils and penetrates the heart. The white light slowly turned to crimson, the stars in the sky disappeared, and the chirping of birds came from far and near.
一线金红色的边在云后边涌上来了，层层云朵都镶上了窄窄的透亮的金色的边。人们心里不禁说，太阳要出来了，于是万物都显露出无限生机，沸腾的生活又开始了。
A golden red edge surged up from behind the clouds, and the layers of clouds were lined with narrow, translucent golden edges. People couldn't help but say in their hearts, the sun is coming out, so everything showed infinite vitality, and the boiling life began again.
杜晚香被接待在招待所了，招待所住的满满的房间、过道、饭厅、院子，人来人往，大家很容易不约而同地问道：“你是哪个农场的？你分配在哪里做什么工作？”
Du Wanxiang was received in the guest house. The guest house was full, with people coming and going in the rooms, corridors, dining rooms, and courtyards. It was easy for everyone to ask in unison, "Which farm are you from? Where are you assigned to do what work?"
你们农场房建怎么样？还住帐篷吗？杜晚香的房间里还住有2个女同志和1个小男孩。一个18、19岁的女同志是学生样子，动作敏捷，说话伶俐，头扬得高高的，看人只从眼角微微一瞟。
How is your farmhouse built and you still live in a tent? There are 2 lesbians and a little boy living in Du Wanxiang's room. A lesbian who is 18 or 19 years old looks like a student, moves quickly and speaks well. He is smart, holds his head high, and only glances at people from the corners of his eyes.
他听到隔壁房间有人说北大荒狼多，便动了动嘴唇，露出一列白牙，痴痴笑道：“狼算个什么，家常便饭。”那熊瞎子才真闯烈，看到拖拉机过来，也不让开，用2个大爪子扑住车灯。
When she heard someone in the next room say that there were many wolves in the great northern wilderness, she moved her lips, exposed a row of white teeth, and sneered, Wolves are nothing, they are commonplace. That blind bear really broke out. When he saw the tractor coming, he didn't get out of the way and used his 2 big paws to catch the headlights.
和拖拉机对劲呢，原来他是一个拖拉机手，来农场1年开了多少荒，自己都算不清了。 杜婉香真佩服他，觉得是一个高不可攀的人。另一个是转业海军的妻子，带一个半岁多的男孩。
She's good with tractors. It turns out that she is a tractor driver. She has driven so many fields in the farm for 1 year that she can't even count. Du Wanxiang really admires her and thinks she is an unattainable person. The other one is the wife of a retired Navy officer, has a little boy who is over half a year old.
这是一个多么热情而温柔的女性啊！她亲切仔细地问杜婉香的家乡来历，鼓励她说：“北大荒没有什么吓人的，多住几天就惯了。我是南方人，在大城市里长大，说生活，我们那里吃的、穿的。”
What a warm and gentle woman she is. She asked Du Wanxiang's hometown and origins cordially and carefully, and encouraged her. Bidawang, there is nothing scary. You will get used to it after living for a few more days. I am a southerner and grew up in a big city. When it comes to life, there is food and clothing there.
享受的，样样都好。刚听说要来这里，我也想过到那样冷的地方去干什么。刚来时，正是阳历2月底，冰天雪地，朔风刺骨，住无住处，吃的高粱米黄豆，一切都得从头做起，平地起家，说不苦。
Enjoyable, everything is good. When I heard that I was going to come here, I also thought about what I would do in such a cold place. When I first came here, it was the end of February in the Gregorian calendar. It was freezing and snowy, the wind was biting, and I had no place to live. I had to make everything from scratch to eat sorghum, rice, and soybeans. Starting from humble beginnings was not a hardship.
也实在有些过不惯。嘿，忙了一阵子，真怪。我们都喜欢这里了，我们决心在这里安家落户，像部长说的，开创事业。想现成的，吃别人碗里的残汤剩水，实在没有什么味道。
It's really hard to get used to it. Hey, been busy for a while, so weird. We all like it here, and we are determined to settle down here and, as the minister said, start a career. Enjoying ready-made food and eating leftover soup and water from other people's bowls is really tasteless.
我现在是要把这孩子送到他姥姥家，过2年这里有了幼儿园时再接回来。一个人呀，只有对党、对革命、对穷苦百姓充满无限的热爱，就没有什么困难不能克服。
Now I want to send this child to his grandma's house, and then take him back when there is a kindergarten here in 2 years. As long as a person is full of infinite love for the party, the revolution, and the poor people, there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome.
就没有什么事情不愿为之尽力，就才能懂得什么叫真正的生活和幸福。这个越说越激动的女性看了看晚香，感到自己说的太多太远了，才遗憾似的慢慢说道：“像你这样的人受过苦。”
Only if you don't want to do your best for something can you understand what real life and happiness are. This woman, who became more and more excited as she spoke, looked at Wanxiang and felt that she had said too much and went too far, so she said with regret, he said slowly, "People like you have suffered."
会劳动，是党员，又有一个志愿军战士的丈夫，你一定会喜欢这个地方，一定能过得很好的。我真希望你能生活得好，工作得好啊。她的曾经是海军战士的丈夫，长得堂堂一表，浓眉俊眼。
If you know how to work, are a party member, and have a husband who is a volunteer soldier, you will definitely like this place and live a good life. I really hope you can live well and work well. Her husband, who was once a Navy soldier, was handsome, with thick eyebrows and handsome eyes.
谦虚和蔼，也走到房间里来， 彬彬有礼地招呼杜婉香，幸福地抱起他们的儿子，挽着爱人到外边去散步。这是些什么人啊？这到底是什么地方？这就是家，接待站的人。
Modest and kind, he also came to the room, greeted Du Wanxiang politely, happily picked up their son, and took his lover for a walk outside. What kind of people are these? What the hell is this place? This is home dash. People at the reception station.
按地址把杜婉香交给一位司机，搭乘他的大卡车去某某农场。同车的还有2家的家属，都是拖儿带女，另有3个办事的干部。这天天气明朗，地还是硬硬的，斑斑点点未化完的雪。
According to the address, I handed Du Wanxiang to a driver and took his truck to XX farm. In the same car, there were also family members of 2 families, all with their children and their daughters, and 3 cadres working on errands. The weather was bright that day, the ground was still hard, and there were specks of unmelted snow.
东一片西一片，仍然积在大道上，车轮碾过去，咔咔发响。太阳照在远山上，照在路两边的地里，有的地方反射出一道道刺目的白光，在突出的地面，在阳坡边全是沾泥带水的黑色土壤。
A piece of debris in the east and a piece in the west is still accumulated on the road, and the wheels roll over, making a rattling sound. The sun shines on the distant mountains and on the ground on both sides of the road, reflecting dazzling white light in some places. On the protruding ground and on the sunny slopes, there is black soil stained with mud and water.
从黄土高原来的人看到这无尽的随着汽车行走的蒸发出湿气渗出油腻的黑色大地，实在稀罕可爱。同车的人告诉他，黑龙江人常说这里的土叉跟筷子都会发芽裂。一路上远处有山。
People who come from the Lus Plateau see this endless, greasy black earth that evaporates moisture and oozes as cars move along. It is really lovely. The people in the same car told her, Heilongjiang people often say that if you stick a chopstick in the soil here, it will sprout. There are mountains in the distance along the way.
近处是园，村庄很少，人烟很稀，汽车就在只能遇到汽车的大道上驰骋，景物好像很单调，可是谁也舍不得把眼光从四周收回，把一丝一点的发现都当作奇迹互相指点。一阵微风吹过。
There are plains in the distance, with few villages and sparsely populated areas. Cars are driving on the roads where only cars can be encountered. The scenery seems very monotonous, but no one is willing to take their eyes away from the surroundings and regard every discovery as a miracle's point to each other. A breeze blew by.
只见从地平线上漫过来一片轻雾，雾迅速地重起来，厚起来，像一层层灰色的棉絮罩在头上。人们正在怀疑，彼此用惊奇的眼光询问，可是忽然看见小小的白羽毛。
I saw a light mist coming from the horizon. The mist quickly became heavier and thicker, like layers of gray cotton wool covering the heads. People were doubting and asking each other with surprised eyes, but suddenly they saw a small white feather.
像吹落的花瓣那样飞了下来，先还零零落落，跟着就一团一团的飞舞。司机棚里的小孩欢喜地叫了起来，大人们也笑道：“怎么说下就下？可不真的下起雪来了。”汽车加快速度。
It flew down like blown petals, first in scattered pieces, and then flying in groups. The children in the driver's shed screamed with joy, and the adults also laughed and said, "Why, let's do it. It's not really snowing." The car sped up. 在
飞舞的花片中前进，花片越来越大， 一朵朵一簇簇的，却又是轻盈的横飞过来，无声的落在衣衫上，落在头巾帽子上，粘在眼睫上、眉毛上，消了又聚上来，擦干了又粘上来。
Move forward among the flying flowers. The flower pieces are getting bigger and bigger, one after another, but they are flying across the sky lightly, falling silently on the clothes, falling on the headscarf and hat, sticking to the eyelashes and eyebrows, disappearing, and then gathered up, wiped dry, stained again.
空中已经望不见什么了，只有重重叠叠，一层又一层的扯碎了的棉花团，整个世界都被裹进桃花、梨花或者绣球花里了。车开不快了，一步一步摸索着前进。
Nothing can be seen in the sky, only layers of cotton balls that are torn to pieces layer by layer. The whole world is wrapped in peach blossoms, pear blossoms, or hydrangeas. The car couldn't drive fast anymore, and it was groping forward step by step.
司机同志在这满天飞雪的春寒中，浑身冒着热汗呢。不远了，农场就在前边，快点到达吧。不久，就听见花雾中传来人声，车子停了，一个人、一群人走了出来，牵人的、扶人的、抱小孩的。
The driver, comrade, was sweating all over in the spring cold with snow all over the sky. It's not far away, the farm is just ahead, hurry up and get there. Soon, I heard voices coming from the mist. The car stopped, and a person or a group of people came out, leading people, helping people, and holding children.
拿东西的都亲切地问道：“路上还好走吧？我们真担心视力。快进屋，暖和暖和。这里是农场的汽车站，人群里有没有李贵呢？李贵来接没有？没有，没有。”杜婉香随着被人们拥进一间大屋。
Those who were carrying things asked kindly, "Is the road going okay? We are really worried about something. Come in quickly and get warm. This is the bus station of the farm. Is there Li Gui in the crowd? Is Li Gui coming to pick him up? No, no. Du Wanxiang was herded into a big room by people.
屋中燃烧着一个汽油桶做的大火炉，炉筒子就有房梁粗，满是暖融融的。屋子里没有什么陈设，只有一张白木桌子，几条板凳，有些人围在刚下车的家属们周围，问寒问暖，连说。
A large stove made of gasoline barrels burned in the house. The stove tube was as thick as a beam, and the room was filled with warmth. There were no furnishings in the room, only a white wooden table and a few benches. Some people gathered around the family members who had just got off the bus, asking about the cold and warmth, and kept saying,
一路辛苦了，先到厂部招待所待几天，好好休息。有什么需要，有什么困难，尽管说。这就到了家吗？这些人杜婉香一个也不认识，却像来到一个亲戚家，被热情招待着。
It's been a hard journey, so let's go to the hostel for a few days and have a good rest. If you have any needs or difficulties, just ask. We're home now. Du Wanxiang didn't know any of these people, but she felt like she was at a relative's house and was warmly received.
又像回到久别的家里一样，样样生疏，样样又如此熟人。他也就像在家乡一样，习惯地照顾着别人。有人拿开水来了，他接过来一碗一碗地倒着，捧到别人面前。看见地上有些泥块、烟头。
It's like returning home after a long absence. Everything is unfamiliar, yet everything is so familiar. She also habitually takes care of others just like she did in her hometown. Someone brought boiling water, and she took the bowls and poured them out, holding them in front of others. I saw some mud and cigarette butts on the ground.
便从屋角拿起一把条带扫了起来。旁人先还有点客气，慢慢也就不觉得他是一个新来乍到，从好几千里远方来的客人，倒好像他也是一个住久了的主人似的。那个同车来的干部
Then he picked up a handful of strips from the corner of the room and swept them away. Others were a little polite at first, but gradually they no longer felt that she was a new arrival from thousands of miles away, but as if she was also a long-standing host. The cadre who came in the same car.
一路来很欣赏杜婉香的那种安详自若、从容愉快的神情。他对她说：“这就是家，我们都在这里兴家立业。我们刚来时，连长带着我们一连人，说是到农场去，汽车走了2天，第2天傍晚。”
Along the way, she admired Du Wanxiang's calm and happy expression. He said to her, "This is home. We all build our families here. When we first came here, the company commander took our company and said it was to go to the farm. The car drove for 2 days, and the next day it was evening."
汽车停在一块靠山的荒地上，连长说：“下车吧。”到家了，到家了。家在哪里呢？一片原始森林，一片荒草地，哪里有家呢？我们迟疑的，你望着我，我望着你，不动弹。连长说：“都下车吧。”都到家了。
The car stopped on a wasteland near a mountain, and the company commander said, "Get out of the car." Home, home. Where is home? A virgin forest, a piece of barren grassland, where is home? You looked at me hesitantly, and I looked at you, without moving. The company commander said, "Everyone, get off the car. Everyone is home."
还不下来？又说：“快下车，砍木头，割草，割条子，盖个窝棚，要不今晚就要露营了。”连长首先跳下车，我们一个一个也都下车了。忙忙乱乱，就这样安下家来。哼，现在可不一样了。
Still not coming down. And said, "Get out of the car quickly, chop wood, cut grass, cut strips, and build a shack, or we will camp tonight." The company commander jumped out of the car first, and we all got out of the car one by one. Busy and busy, just settled down at home. Things are different now.
你明天看看厂部吧，电灯电话，高楼大厦列。回想当初真够意思。家属生活，离厂部30多里路的第13生产队是一个新建队。李贵是这个队的一名拖拉机手，虽是新手，但他谨慎勤奋。
You can take a look at the field department tomorrow. There are electric lights, telephones, and high-rise buildings. It was really fun to look back on it. Family life. The 13th production team, more than 30 miles away from the field, is a new team. Li Gui is a tractor driver in this team. Although he is a novice, he is cautious and diligent.
有问题找老师，一面工作一面学习，在这都是初来乍到的人群里，谁都在做着没有学习过的新鲜事儿，因此他很忙。妻子来了，他很高兴。他从集体宿舍搬了出来。
If he has any questions, he goes to the teacher and works and studies at the same time. In this crowd of newcomers, everyone is doing new things that they have never learned before, so he is very busy. His wife came and he was very happy. He moved out of the dormitory.
在一间刚盖好的干打垒的草房里安了家，一切整修过日子的事都交给晚香，心里很满意。在他家乡整整辛勤劳累了11年的媳妇，该安安闲闲过几天舒服日子。
He settled down in a newly built thatched cottage and left all the renovations to Wanxiang. He was very satisfied that his daughter-in-law, who had worked hard for 11 years in his hometown, should be at ease. Have a few days of leisure and comfort.
他的工资很够他们过的。杜晚香忙了几天，把一个家安下来了。从生活看来是安定的，但人的心境被沿路的新鲜事物所激起的波浪却平静不下来。他觉得有许多东西冲上心头。
His salary is enough for them to live on. Du Wanxiang worked hard for a few days and settled into a home. Life seems stable. But people's state of mind cannot calm down from the waves stirred up by the new things along the way. She felt that many things were coming to her mind.
塞满脑手，他想找一个人谈谈，想找一些事做做，可是李贵很少回家，回家后也只同他谈谈家常，漫不经心地说，先住下，慢慢再谈工作。再说，你能干什么呢？无非是地里活，除草耪地。
With her mind and hands full, she wanted to find someone to talk to and something to do, but Li Gui rarely went home. When he came home, he only talked to her about daily life, and said nonchalantly, "Stay here first, and then take your time. Talk about work. Besides, what can you do is just work in the fields and till the grass."
可这里是机械化，大型农场，一切用机器，我看把家务活做好也不坏嘛。5月正是这里播种的大忙季节，红色的拖拉机群在爬好的大块大块的地面上走过去，走到好远好远。
But this is a mechanized, large-scale farm, and everything uses machines. I think it's not bad to do the housework well. May is the busy season for sowing here. A group of red tractors walked over the large raked ground and walked far and wide.
远到快看不见的地边，才轰轰轰地掉头转回来。杜晚香在宿舍前边一排刚栽的杨树跟前一站半天。他不是一个会表达自己思想的人，他才从小山沟里出来。
It was so far away that it was almost invisible, and then it turned around and came back with a roar. Du Wanxiang stood in front of a row of newly planted poplar trees in front of the dormitory for a long time. She is not a person who can express her thoughts. She just came out of a small ravine.
觉得这里人人都比自己能愚，连李贵现在也成了一个很高很大的角色。他出过国，在朝鲜打过美国鬼子，他学习了几年，增长了许多知识，现在又是一名拖拉机手，操纵着那么大的。
I feel like everyone here is better than me. Even Li Gui has become a very tall character now. He went abroad and fought against the American soldiers in Korea. He studied for several years and gained a lot of knowledge. Now he is a tractor driver, operating such a big tractor.
几十匹马力的大车，从早到晚，从晚到早的在这无垠的平层层的黑色海洋里驰骋。他同一些司机们，同队上的其他的人有说有笑，而回到家里就只是等着他端饭，吃罢饭就又走了。
Cars with dozens of horsepower are galloping in this endless flat black ocean from morning to night, from night to morning. He was talking and laughing with some drivers and other people in the team, and when he got home, he just waited for her to bring him food, and then left again after eating.
去找别的人谈笑，或者是打扑克下象棋，他同他没有话说，正像他公公对他婆婆一样。其实他过去对他也是这样，他也从没有感到什么不适合，也没有别的要求，可是现在他却想
Go find other people to talk, laugh, or play poker or chess. He has nothing to say to her, just like her father-in-law to her mother-in-law. In fact, he was like this to her in the past, and she never felt inappropriate or had any other requirements, but now she thinks.
他老远叫我来干什么呢？就是替他做饭、收拾房子，陪他过日子嘛。他尽管这样想，可是并没有反感，有时还不觉得产生出对他的尊敬和爱慕。他只是对自己的无能悄悄地怀着一种情愿。
Why did he ask me to come all the way? Just to cook for him, clean the house, and live with him? Although she thought this way, she didn't feel disgusted. Sometimes she didn't feel that she had respect and admiration for him. She just felt that she was her own. Incompetent, quietly harboring a kind of pure resentment.
这愿一天天生长，实在忍不住了，他便去找队长。队长，你安排点工作给我做吧，我实在闲得难受。队长是一个老转业军人，同来自五湖四海的家属们打过交道。
The resentment grew day by day, and she couldn't bear it anymore, so she went to the captain. Captain, please arrange some work for me. I'm really uncomfortable with my idle time. The captain is an old retired soldier, and his family members come from all over the world. Have dealt with.
很懂得家属们刚来这里生活的不习惯，总是尽量为他们想办法，动脑筋，做细致的思想工作。可是对于现在这个急于要求工作的人，还不很了解，也还没有领会到他的充满了新鲜。
I understand very well that the family members are not used to living here for the first time, and I always try my best to find ways for them, use their brains, and do detailed ideological work for them. However, I still don't know much about this person who is eager to get a job, and I haven't yet realized that she is full of freshness.
和要求参加劳动的热情，他只说：“你要工作吗？那很好嘛。我们这样一个新建队，事事都要人，处处有工作，你看着办嘛。有什么事就做什么事，能干什么就干什么。哎，要把你编在班组里。”
And the enthusiasm to participate in labor, he only said, "Do you want to work? That's great. We are a new team, we need people for everything, and there is work everywhere. You can do it as you see fit. If you have something to do, just do it. Whatever you can do, just do it. Oh, I want you to be included in the team."
还真不知道往哪里编才合适咧。晚香没有说什么，可是这个新凑合起来还只有30多户的家属区，却一天天变样了。原来无人管的一个极脏的厕所，忽然变得干净了，天天有人打扫。
I really don't know where to compile it. Wanxiang didn't say anything. But this new family area, which only has more than 30 households, is changing day by day. It used to be an unattended area. The extremely dirty toilet suddenly became clean and was cleaned every day.
地面撒了一层石灰，大家不再犯愁进厕所了。家家门前也光光亮亮，没有煤和垃圾烟头。开始谁也没有注意，也没有人打问，只以为是很自然的事。有些人家孩子多，买粮。
A layer of lime was spread on the ground, so everyone no longer had to worry about going to the toilet. The front doors of every house are bright and clear, with no coal cores or garbage cigarette butts. At first no one noticed or asked, they just thought it was a natural thing. Some families have many children and buy food.
买油常常感到不方便，看见晚香没孩子，就托她烧东西，看看孩子。慢慢找她帮忙的人多了起来，先还说声谢谢，往后也就习以为常了。有的人见她好使唤，连自己能做的事也要找她。
It is often inconvenient to buy oil. When I see Wanxiang has no children, I ask her to carry things and look after the children. Gradually, more and more people came to her for help. They said thank you at first, and then they became accustomed to it. Some people see that she is easy to take care of, and even ask her to do things they can do.
见她在做鞋子，就请她替孩子也做一双；看见她补衣服，也把丈夫的衣服拿来请她补补。还有向她借点粮票或借鸡脚钱的，却又不记得还。婉香对这些从不计较。
When he saw her making shoes, he asked her to make a pair for his children. When he saw her mending clothes, he also brought her husband's clothes and asked her to mend them. There are also people who borrow some food stamps or a few cents from her, but don't remember to pay them back. Wanxiang never cares about these.
反正这家属区有了这样一个人，人人都称心。队长也顾不上管他们，生活从表面上看起来就像一潭平静的湖水，悠然自得地过下去。李贵觉得妻子不再吵着要工作。
Anyway, everyone is satisfied with having such a person in this family area. The captain didn't care about them. On the surface, life looked like a calm lake, and they lived leisurely. Li Gui felt that his wife no longer clamored for work.
也以为他很安心地在过日子。活了多少年，就几乎劳累了多少年的一个孤女子，现在也该像一只经历了飓风恶浪的小船，找到了一个避风的小港湾，安安稳稳地过几天太平生活了。
I thought she was living her life with peace of mind. An orphan woman who has been almost exhausted for as many years as she has lived, is now like a small boat that has experienced strong winds and waves, found a small harbor sheltered from the wind, and lived a peaceful life for a few days.
欢乐的夏天，7月的北大荒，天色清明，微风徐来，袭人衣襟。茂密的草丛上，厚厚的盖着五颜六色的花朵，泛出迷人的香气。粉红色的波斯菊，鲜红的野百合花，亭亭玉立的金针花。
Happy summer. In July in the great northern wilderness, the sky is clear and bright, and a gentle breeze blows on people's clothes. The lush grass is thickly covered with colorful flowers, emitting a charming fragrance. Pink cosmos, bright red wild lilies, and graceful daylilies.
大朵大朵的野芍药，还有许许多多叫不出名字的花，正如丝绒锦绣，装饰着这无边大地。蜜蜂、蝴蝶、蜻蜓闪着五彩缤纷的翅膀飞翔。野鸡、野鸭、鹭鸶、水鸟在滴湿的水沼处欢跳。几子
Big wild peonies and many unnamed flowers are like velvet brocades, decorating the boundless land. Bees, butterflies, and dragonflies fly with colorful wings. Pheasants, ducks, egrets, and waterfowls danced happily in the low humid marshes, including muntjac.
獐子在高坡上奔窜。原来北大荒的主人们，那些黑熊、野猪、狼、虎，不甘心退出边远地带，留恋着这巍巍群山、茫茫草原，还时常偷跑到庄稼地里找寻食物，侵袭新主人。
The deer are running on the high slopes. It turns out that the owners of the great northern wilderness, the black bears, wild boars, wolves, and foxes, were unwilling to retreat to the remote areas and were nostalgic for the splendid mountains and vast grasslands. They would often sneak into the crop fields in search of food and invade the new owners.
表面上看来非常平静的沃野，一切生物都在这里为着自己的生长和生存而战斗。被包围在这美丽的天地之间的农场景色就更是壮观，玉米绿了，麦子黄了，油漆的鲜红的拖拉机。
On the surface, it looks like a very peaceful fertile field, where all living creatures are fighting for their own growth and survival. The farm's scenery surrounded by this beautiful world is even more spectacular. The corn is green, the wheat is yellow, and the tractors are painted bright red.
联合收割机宛如舰艇，驰骋在金黄色的海洋里，劈开麦浪，滚滚前进。他们走过一线，便露出了一片黑色的土地，而金鱼塔式的草垛，疏疏朗朗一堆堆排列在土地之上，太阳照射在上边。
The combine harvester, like a ship, gallops in the golden ocean, splitting the waves of wheat and rolling forward. They walked across a line, revealing a piece of black land, and haystacks like golden towers were arranged in sparse and clear piles on the land, and the sun shone on them.
闪着耀眼的金光，汽车一步接着一步在大路上飞驰。场院里人声鼎沸，高音喇叭播送着雄壮的进行曲和小调，一会儿是男低音，一会儿是女高音，各个民族的醉人的旋律。
Shining with dazzling golden light. Cars were speeding down the road one after another. The courtyard was filled with people, and the loudspeakers played majestic marches and minor tunes, sometimes basses, sometimes sopranos, intoxicating melodies from various ethnic groups.
在劳动者之间飘荡，人们好像一会儿站在高山之巅昂首环顾，一会儿浮游在汹涌的海洋随波逐浪，一会儿又仿佛漫步于小桥流水之间低回婉转，但最令人注意的
Floating among the workers. People seem to be standing on the top of a mountain and looking around. Sometimes they are floating in the turbulent ocean, drifting with the waves. Sometimes they seem to be walking among small bridges and flowing water, wandering gracefully, but the most noticeable thing is
仍然是场院指挥部的召唤，或是关于生产数量与质量进度的报告。杜婉香带领着一群家属，一会儿在吞云吐雾的羊场机旁喂麦粒，一会儿又在小山似的麦堆周围举着大扫帚。
It's still a call from the field headquarters, or a report on production quantity and quality progress. Du Wanxiang led a group of family members, sometimes feeding wheat grains next to the winnowing machine that was puffing out smoke, and sometimes holding a big broom around the hill-like wheat pile.
轻轻地扫着。什么时候见过这样多的麦子？这群穿得花花绿绿的年轻妇女，一会儿又排成雁翎队在晒麦场上齐头并进翻晒麦粒。这时，杜婉香觉得整个宇宙是这样的庄严，这样的美丽。
Sweep gently. When have I ever seen so much wheat? This group of young women in colorful clothes formed a team of wild goose feathers in the wheat drying field, and went hand in hand to dry the wheat grains. At this time, Du Wanxiang felt that the entire universe was so solemn and beautiful.
他年轻了，他抬头环望，洋溢在同伴们脸上的是热情豪迈，歌声与劳动糅合在一起。他低头细看，脚下是颗颗珍珠，在他们的赤脚上滚来滚去。那热乎乎、圆滚滚的麦粒。
She was young. She raised her head and looked around. The faces of her companions were full of enthusiasm and heroism. The singing and labor were mixed together. She lowered her head and took a closer look. Under her feet were pearls rolling around on their bare feet. Those warm, round wheat grains.
戏耍似的痒酥酥地刺着脚心，他踩了过去，又踩着回来，翻了这片，又翻那片。他好像回到了幼年，才7、8岁，只想跳跃和呼叫。可这是幸福的幼年，同当年挑着半担水，独自爬上高原。
It pricked the soles of the feet playfully. She stepped on it and stepped back, turning over this piece and then that piece. She seemed to have returned to her childhood, only 7 or 8 years old, and she just wanted to jump and shout. But this was a happy childhood, the same as when I carried half a load of water and climbed up to the plateau alone.
又独自走回家来，整天提心吊胆的幼年是多么的有了天渊之别。 他不觉得放肆地把幼年时代的山歌放声唱了起来。歌声吸引着人群，人们侧耳聆听着这来自西北高原上的牧歌。
Walking home alone again, what a huge difference there is from the young boy who was always on tenterhooks. She unconsciously sang the folk songs from her childhood wildly and loudly. The singing attracted the crowd, and people listened attentively to this pastoral song from the Northwest Plateau.
高亢清朗，油然产生了广阔的情怀和无尽的遐想。人们惊异地望着这个经常只默默微笑着的小女子，更多的人响应她的颤动的歌声，情不自禁地也唱起自己熟悉的乡歌来了。
It is high-pitched and clear, spontaneously giving rise to broad feelings and endless reverie. People looked at this little woman who often only smiled silently in amazement. More people responded to her trembling singing voice and couldn't help but sing their familiar country songs.
整个场院在淳朴的音乐旋律中旋转着，歌声与笑脸四处浮动与飘扬。多么活跃的生命，多么幸福的人生啊！杜婉香在充满愉快的劳动中，没有疲劳的感觉，没有饥饿的感觉。
The entire venue was spinning in the pure music melody, with singing voices and smiling faces floating everywhere. What an active life, what a happy life. Du Wanxiang felt no fatigue or hunger while working happily.
大家休息了，他不休息；大家吃饭，他也不停下手脚。在长院参加劳动的工人家属的工资有计时的，有计件的，而他的工资是既不计时又不计件。
Everyone took a rest, but she didn't rest. When everyone ate, she didn't stop either. The wages of the workers and family members who worked in the yard were either time-based or piece-based, but her salary was neither time-based nor piece-based.
全场院的人都用惊奇的眼光望着这个个儿不高、身子不壮、沉静的、总是微微笑着的小女子，奇怪她为什么有那么多使不完的劲。
Everyone in the courtyard looked at this little girl who was short, not strong, quiet, and always smiling with surprise, and wondered why she had so much energy.
奇怪，在她长得平平常常的脸上，总有那么一股引得人家不得不去注意的一种崇高的、尊严而又纯洁的光辉。平凡不平凡？冬天来了，北风呼啸。
It's strange that there is always such a noble, dignified, and pure brilliance on her ordinary face that attracts people's attention. Ordinary and extraordinary. Winter is coming and the north wind is howling.
一阵烟儿炮，北大荒特有的暴风雪卷起遍地雪沙，漫天飞洒，亦是天昏地暗，不辨东西南北。人们即使付出全身精力，也难站得稳身体。北大荒的严寒是不会对任何人让步的。
A burst of smoke, a unique blizzard in the northern wilderness, rolled up snow and sand all over the ground, flying all over the sky. It was dark for a while, and people could not distinguish between east, west, north, and south. Even if people put all their energy into it, it was difficult to stand firm. The severe cold in the northern wilderness would not be harmful to them. No one gives in.
但北大荒人却能骄傲地享受着胜利者的幸福。在零下30度，胡子眉毛沾满了雪花，眼睫毛拧成了2排细细的冰棍，可是汗水依然打湿了额上的短发，而又冻在额上。
But the people of Bedawang can proudly enjoy the happiness of the victors. At 30 degrees below zero, my beard and eyebrows were covered with snowflakes, and my eyelashes were condensed into 2 rows of thin popsicles. However, the short hair on my forehead was still wet with sweat, and it was frozen on my forehead.
衬衣被汗水湿透了， 罩在外边的毛衣或绒衣后背上是厚厚的一层雪白的霜花。上山伐木，野外一草，取石开渠，这些都是只有被挑选出来的年轻棒小伙子才能争得的鏖战权利。
The shirt was soaked with sweat, and the back of the sweater or fleece covering it was covered with a thick layer of snow-white frost. Chopping trees in the mountains, mowing grass in the fields, and digging rocks from rocks are all fierce battle rights that only selected young men can fight for.
可是已经为自己闯开了劳动前门的祝晚香，也像小伙子一样勇敢地投入到这一些汹涌的劳动波涛，倒千层浪，攀万仞峰。就这样冬去下来，年复一年，杜晚香在平凡的岗位上。
But Zhu Wanxiang, who had already opened the door to work for herself, bravely plunged into these turbulent waves of labor like a young man, climbing thousands of waves and climbing 10,000 peaks. Just like this, winter passed and summer came, year after year. Du Wanxiang was in an ordinary position.
做出了不平凡的成绩，他总是从容不迫，沉静地跨越过去，远远地走在同伴们的头前。心服他的越来越服，不服他的那就努力追赶吧。杜晚香在激流中涌进，在涌进中振奋起无穷力量。
Made extraordinary achievements. She always walked calmly and calmly, far ahead of her companions. Those who are convinced by her will become more and more convinced, and those who are not convinced by her, then work hard to catch up. Du Wanxiang surged in the torrent, and inspired infinite power in the surge.
他总是在他遇到的各种各式的人和事物中显出他宽大的胸怀。他只是悄悄地为这个人，为那个人做些他认为应该做的小事。可是，一到年终评比，也总是像泉水一样从这里那里冒。
She always shows her broad mind among all kinds of people and things she encounters. She just quietly does the little things she thinks should be done for this person and that person. But when it comes to year-end evaluations, they always come out like spring water from here and there.
出来数不清的颂扬，说起来事情很平常，但一思量，人人都会觉得这是一般人不容易做到的。于是，不管他自己怎样谦虚，他总是被全体一致地推选出来。他是对的，然后又是农场的。
Countless praises came out. It sounds very common, but when you think about it, everyone will think that this is not easy for ordinary people to do. So no matter how modest she was always elected unanimously. She was from the team, then from the farm.
全肯去的标兵了。看起来杜晚香像开顺风船似的青云直上，实际同长江大河一样有暗流险滩。杜晚香也常常在一些意想不到的事情上遇到麻烦，她也就从这里锻炼成长的。
A model for the whole reclamation area. It seems that Du Wanxiang is sailing up to the blue clouds like a smooth sailing boat, but in fact, like the Yangtze River, there are undercurrents and dangerous shoals. Du Wanxiang often encounters troubles in unexpected things, and she develops from here.
他原是一个温和的人，从来不同人吵嘴打架闹意见，可是家属队伍也不是好领导的。有一次，他遇上一个偷公家东西的人，他上去好言好语劝阻，谁知那个人反而大耍威风。
She was originally a gentle person and never quarreled, fought, or had any disagreements with others, but the family team was not easy to lead either. Once, she met a man who was stealing from the government. She went up to him and tried to dissuade him with nice words, but to her surprise, the man became more powerful.
骂他多管闲事，他气得直发抖，红着脸拉着那只偷东西的手，沉重而严厉地呵斥道：“怎么能这样呢？这是公家的东西。” 谁也不能拿，快放回去。他的正气压倒了对手，那人软了下来。
Scolded her for being nosy. She was shaking with anger, blushing, holding the hand that stole the thing, and scolded heavily and sternly. How can this be done? This is public property. No one can take it, put it back quickly. The righteousness overwhelmed the opponent and the man softened.
灰溜溜地走了。在低标准那年，农场粮食供应标准降低了，李贵的父母又从乡下迁来，他们还生了一个女孩，生活一时困难些。秋收以后，许多人到收割了的地里去捡点粮食。
Walked away in despair. In the year of low standards, the farm's food supply standards were lowered, and Li Gui's parents moved from the countryside. They also gave birth to a girl, and life became more difficult for a while. After the autumn harvest, many people go to the harvested fields to pick up some food.
这年因为雨水多，机器收割不干净，地块不大，能捡的不少。李贵的父亲跟着去捡点。后来一些职工也利用休息时间去捡，到碗边，大包小包，麻布口袋都背回自己家里去。杜婉香也跟着去。
This year there was a lot of rain and the machine harvesting was not clean, so it was difficult to pick up a lot of land. Li Gui's father followed him to pick up some. Later, some workers also used their breaks to pick it up, and in the evening, they carried all the large and small bags and linen bags back to their homes. Du Wanxiang also followed.
他眼快手勤，捡得比别人多，可是他却把捡来的黄豆、麦粒一麻袋一麻袋的扛到场院去了。于是有人指着他受凌的背影笑他傻，有人背地骂他讨好出风头，家庭里也闹开了矛盾。
She was quick-eyed and diligent, and picked up more than others, but she carried the soybeans and wheat grains she picked up to the yard one sack at a time. So some people pointed at her thin back and laughed at her for being stupid, while some people scolded her behind her back for trying to please the limelight. There were also conflicts in the family.
婆婆不做饭了，说哪有婆婆做饭给媳妇吃的，公公不吃饭了，说省给小的吃。李贵站在父母一边，唠唠叨叨说，公家的粮食大家捡一点回家，算不了什么，你自己不去捡也行。
The mother-in-law stopped cooking, saying how could her mother-in-law cook for her daughter-in-law? The father-in-law stopped eating, saying he would save it for the little ones. Li Gui stood on the side of his parents and said naggingly, everyone picks up a little of the public food and takes it home. It doesn't count. You don't have to pick it up yourself.
辛辛苦苦捡来交工，背后惹人埋怨，杜婉香不顾别人笑骂，好言好语说服家庭，照旧去捡，捡了交到场院。他说，这是自家的粮食，我们是国营农场的工人，要看到6亿人口啊。
I worked so hard to pick it up and handed it over to the public, but people complained behind my back. Du Wanxiang ignored the laughter and scolding of others and persuaded her family with good words, so she went to pick it up and handed it over to the farm. She said, this is her own food. We are state farm workers and we want to see a population of 600 million.
我们农场职工的口粮标准已经比哪里都要高。眼睛大了，身子瘦了的杜婉香硬是影响了许多人，连小学校的学生也组织起来为国家去捡粮。有一年
The ration standards for our farm workers are already higher than anywhere else. Du Wanxiang, who had big eyes and lost weight, influenced many people. Even the students in primary schools organized themselves to pick up food for the country. 1 year.
农场里来了许多大城市的知识青年，大都是中学毕业生，懂得许多名词，会说会道。 能歌能舞，好不天真活泼。13队来了20多个这样天之骄子的姑娘，杜婉香被分配给他们当队长。
Many educated young people from big cities came to the farm. Most of them were middle school graduates. They knew many terms, could speak well, could sing and dance, and were so innocent and lively. Team 13 had more than 20 such proud girls. Du Wanxiang was assigned to be their captain.
带领他们劳动、学习、照顾他们的生活。姑娘们一听介绍，好不经意啊！什么？这个土里土气、一点也不起眼的小个女子是共产党员，全垦区的标兵真看不出。哎，还有一个不坏的名字脸。
Lead them to work, study, and take care of their lives. The girls were so surprised when they heard the introduction. What, this rustic, unremarkable little woman is a member of the Communist Party, the pacesetter in the reclamation area really can't tell. Alas, it's not a bad name either.
也不知道谁给取的。这群多变的女孩子，开头高高兴兴的玩了几天，后来有的想家了，有的哼着不知道何人编的歌，什么谁的青春谁不爱惜。他们开始几天，也还喜欢过他们的组长。
I don't know who picked it up. This group of changeable girls played happily for a few days at first, but then some became homesick, and some hummed a song composed by someone, something like, whose youth doesn't cherish, dash. In the first few days, they even liked their team leader.
觉得他诚恳严肃，和蔼可亲，工作细致。可是慢慢的，老看着他打过补丁的蓝布衣服和那不时兴的发饰不顺眼。哎，真是毫无风趣。杜婉香耐心地向他们讲农场的建厂事迹，讲王镇部长。
I thought she was sincere, serious, amiable, and meticulous in her work, but gradually, I kept noticing her patched blue clothes and her unfashionable hairstyle. Alas, it's so uninteresting. Du Wanxiang patiently told them the story of the farm's establishment, Minister Wang Zhen.
讲老红军厂长，凡是他听到的、感动过他的、教育了他的那些有伟大人格的人们的往事。有的人爱听，决心振作起来，学习老红军。可也有人嫌他啰嗦，撅嘴望着他冷笑，哼，一个半文盲。
Talking about the old Red Army field director, everything she heard, everything that moved her, and the past events of those people with great personalities who educated her. Some people like to listen and are determined to cheer up and learn from the old Red Army. But some people thought she was wordy and looked at her with pouty lips and sneered, humph. A semi-literate person.
土包子，家属妇女，跟我们上什么政治课，让你带领劳动，就算客气了，也不拿镜子照照。但杜婉香好像不懂得他们的轻视，只是无微不至的、信心百倍、始终如一、兴致勃勃地照顾他们。
Country bumpkin, family woman, what kind of political lessons are you giving us to lead the labor? Even if you are polite, you will not look in the mirror. But Du Wanxiang didn't seem to understand their contempt, but she was meticulous, confident, and always Rui took care of them with enthusiasm.
引导他们，他打心眼里爱这群姑娘，他们是遵照毛主席的指示，离开了温暖的家庭，放弃了城市的忧郁生活，到艰苦的边疆来学习劳动的，是一群有着雄心壮志的幼苗。
Guiding them, she loved these girls from the bottom of her heart. They followed Chairman Mao's instructions and left their warm families and affluent life in the city to study and work in the harsh frontiers. They were a group of ambitious seedlings.
他应该以爱毛主席、爱党的一颗热心去照顾他们，他觉得自己也还要向他们学习啊。因此，该体贴他们的时候，他像一个妈妈；该严格的时候， 他像一个老师，他了解他们宽的是地方。
She should take care of them with her love for Chairman Mao and the party. She felt that she also had to learn from them. Therefore, when she should be considerate to them, she is like a mother, and when she should be strict, she is like a teacher. She understands them and is wide enough.
严的是时候，慢慢的，这群女孩感到离不开他，有困难的时候要找他，欢喜的时候也忘不了他。探亲回来，总要把爸爸妈妈捎来的纪念品塞给杜姐。原来那几个看不起她的人。
It's time to be strict. Gradually, these girls felt that they couldn't live without her. They looked for her when they were in trouble and couldn't forget her when they were happy. When they came back from visiting relatives, they always gave Sister Du the souvenirs brought by their parents. People who looked down on her.
也认识到自己的不是，慢慢转变了对她的态度。有一次，杜婉香带他们去10里外的树林里背柴。早晨出去时，小沟里的水还结着薄冰，可回来时冰化了，谁有6、7寸深，却有丈把宽。
He also realized his shortcomings and slowly changed his attitude towards her. Once Du Wanxiang took them to carry firewood in the woods 10 miles away. When I went out in the morning, the water in the ditch was still covered with thin ice, but when I came back, the ice had melted. The water was 6 or 7 inches deep, but about 10 feet wide.
走到沟边，前面的一个姑娘停步了，叫道：“杜姐，水太凉了，怎么办？”杜婉香毫不迟疑地脱下了自己的水靴。可是跟上来的第二个又叫了起来。婉香一蹲身，说道：“上来吧，我背你。”
When they reached the edge of the ditch, a girl in front stopped and shouted, "Sister Du! The water is too cold, what should I do?" Du Wanxiang took off her water boots without hesitation. But the second one who followed shouted again. Wanxiang squatted down and said, "Come up, I will carry you."
婉香来回背了几勺，最后一个小姑娘没有等她，脱了鞋，咬着嘴唇，趟着冰水走了过去，过了沟，却因为脚冻得疼，忍不住哭起来了。婉香即刻陪她坐在地上，把她的双脚放在自己怀里。
Wanxiang carried Wanxiang back and forth for a while, but the last little girl didn't wait for her. She took off her shoes, bit her lip, and walked through the icy water. After crossing the ditch, her feet were so cold that she couldn't help crying. Wanxiang immediately sat on the ground with her and put her feet in her arms. 用棉衣和胸前的温暖捂着，还替她揉着双腿。姑娘们围了上来，才发现杜婉香那双冻得发紫了的双脚，不禁惊叫起来：“杜姐，杜姐呀！”这天晚上，大家躺在炕上，许久睡不着。一个姑娘说 He warmed her with the warmth of his cotton-padded clothes and chest, and rubbed her legs. The girls gathered around and found Du Wanxiang's feet that were purple from the cold. They couldn't help but scream, "Sister Du! Sister Du!" That night, everyone lay on the Kong and couldn't sleep for a long time. A girl said, 我们谁也做不到，我是真服了。另一个说，我们这些中学生光说漂亮话，什么向工农兵学习，思想革命化，可是行动呢？哼。又一个补充道，我看呀。None of us can do it, and am really convinced. Another said, we middle school students only talk nice words. Why should we learn from the workers, peasants, and soldiers and revolutionize our thoughts? But what about actions? Humph. Another added, let me see. 我们里边说不定还有人利用工农同志们忠厚，占了人家便宜，还说人家是傻瓜脸。另一个纠正道，不要把杜姐看扁了，
杜姐才不傻，傻还能当标兵，杜姐才是名副其实的共产党的好党员。
There may be some among us who take advantage of the loyalty of our comrades who are workers and peasants, take advantage of them, and call them fools. Another corrected, "Don't look down on Sister Do. Sister Do is not stupid. She is stupid and can be a pace-setter. Sister Do is truly a good member of the Communist Party."
我们就是该向他学，根深叶茂。宏伟的文化宫的2楼工会办公室，从1964年1月起，杜婉香每天来这里上班。她是工会的女工干事了。工会主席是抗日战争时期的老同志，几个干事。
We should learn from her. Deep roots and luxuriant leaves. In the trade union office on the second floor of the magnificent Cultural Palace, Du Wanxiang has come here to work every day since January 1964. She is a female worker officer of the trade union. The chairman of the trade union is a member of the anti-Japanese war old comrades from the period, several officials.
秘书都是解放战争胜利后来农场的转业军官，最年轻的一个女会计，也是抗美援朝时期志愿军文工团的小团员。杜婉香对他们都很尊敬，把他们看成自己的老师。
The secretaries were all retired officers from the farm after the victory of the Liberation War. The youngest female accountant was also a member of the Volunteer Army Art Troop during the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea. Du Wanxiang respected them all and regarded them as his teachers.
他们对他也真心爱护，都愿意帮助他工作，辅导他看文件、小册子，替他起草工作计划，整理学习心得，还有各种各样的发言稿。因为杜婉香经常被邀请出席一些模范工作者的座谈会。
They also really love her and are willing to help her work, tutoring her in reading documents and pamphlets, drafting work plans for her, organizing learning experiences, and various speeches, because Du Wanxiang is often invited to attend a symposium with some model workers.
要到生产队去讲经验，讲学习毛主席著作的体会，有时又要参加农垦区、省的劳模经验交流会议。此外，还要会见来采访的记者 S， 接待来参观的领导同志。
They have to go to the production team to talk about their experiences and their understanding of studying Chairman Mao's works. Sometimes they have to participate in experience exchange meetings with model workers in agricultural reclamation areas and provinces. In addition, they have to meet with reporters S and receive visiting leading comrades.
荣誉像春风和流水一样迎面扑来，温柔滋润。但杜婉香却没有醉倒，她跑出大楼，短时间内跑遍厂部的直属机关、企业和附近的生产队，以后又跑到那些边远队住几天。
Honor rushes towards you like the spring breeze and flowing water, gentle and moist. But Du Wanxiang did not get drunk. She ran out of the building and visited all the agencies, enterprises, and nearby production teams directly under the field department in a short period of time. Later, she went to those remote teams to stay for a few days.
和职工家属一同劳动，和干部群众谈话，开座谈会。他把了解目的、看到的、学习着整理成材料，提出问题。他坚持到夜校学文化，2年来，一同学习的人都奇怪他进步的速度。
Work together with employees' families, talk to cadres and the masses, and hold symposiums. She organized the purpose of understanding what she saw, and learned into materials and asked questions. She persisted in studying culture at night school. In the past 2 years, those who studied with her were surprised at the speed of her progress. 同一个办公室的那些干事、秘书，原来以为她只不过是一个受党提拔的普通妇女干部，现在才感到不仅如此。
他的与日俱进十分令人注目。
The officers and secretaries in the same office originally thought that she was just an ordinary female cadre promoted by the party, but now they feel that she is more than that. Her progress with each passing day is very eye-catching.
到底是什么原因使得他那样一天比一天更具有一种伟大高尚的纯粹的情操呢？杜婉香又要讲学习心得了。周围几个同志又忙了起来，他们十分热心。
What is the reason that makes her have such a great, noble, and pure sentiment every day? Du Wanxiang wants to talk about her learning experience again. Several comrades around were busy again and they were very enthusiastic.
乐意帮助他把这次的发言写得更好、更生动。他们和他谈话，翻阅报纸、杂志、文件，翻阅马列著作和毛主席著作，把发言稿写得完美通顺、清楚。杜婉香读着这些讲稿，觉得十分好。
I am happy to help her write this speech better and more vividly. They talked with her, read newspapers, magazines, documents, Marxist-Leninist works and Chairman Mao's works, and wrote their speeches perfectly, smoothly and clearly. Du Wanxiang read these speeches and felt they were very good.
只是他感到一种曾经有过的痛苦又要来打扰他了，这不能再重复了。过去在台上，在几千人瞩目中，在念完讲稿后的鼓掌声中，他曾经常常感到一种不安，一种空虚。讲稿的确写得很好。
It's just that she felt that the pain she had had before was coming to disturb her again, and this could not be repeated again. In the past, she used to feel uneasy and empty when she was on stage, in the presence of thousands of people, and in the applause after reading the speech. The lecture notes are indeed well written.
里面引用的有报纸社论，有学习毛主席著作的体会，有先进人物的经验。可是杜婉香总觉得那些漂亮话不是他自己讲的，而是他在讲别人的话，他好像在骗人。他不能继续这样。
There were quotes from newspaper editorials, experiences from studying Chairman Mao's works, and experiences from advanced figures, but Du Wanxiang always felt that those beautiful words were not her own. But she was telling other people's words, and she seemed to be lying. She couldn't continue like this.
他可以不当标兵，不讲演，名字不在报纸上出现，而一定要老实。他尽管现在不会写文章，但他可以，而且应该讲自己的真心话。他是怎样想的，就怎样讲嘛。于是他决定重新起草，自己去想。
She does not have to be a model, give speeches, or have her name appear in newspapers, but she must be honest. Although she can't write articles now, she can and should speak her truth. Just tell her what she thinks. So she decided to redraft it and think about it herself.
理出线索，用自己理解的字词说自己的心里话。他先写了一个提纲，讲给工会的几个同志们听，讲给夜校的老师听，请他们提意见，然后就在职工大会上第一次照着自己准备的。
Sort out the clues, use words you understand, and speak your mind. She first wrote an outline and presented it to several comrades in the trade union and to the night school teachers, asking for their opinions. Then, for the first time at the workers' meeting, she followed what she had prepared.
用自己的语言来讲，这是1965年年底的时候。那天夜晚，明镜市的天空闪耀着繁密的星辰，没有一丝风。文化宫前广场上的柏树林覆盖着一层厚厚的白雪，显得挺拔庄严。
To put it in my own words, this was the end of 1965. That night, the mirror-like sky was shining with dense stars, without a trace of wind. The cypress forest in the square in front of the cultural palace was covered with a thick layer of white snow, looking tall and solemn.
远远近近的马路上浮漾着、反射着淡淡的白色微光。夜是寒冷而宁静，可是从文化宫里却闪耀出辉煌灿烂的灯光，还不时传出欢腾的笑声和掌声。原来是杜婉香在文化宫。
On the road near and far, there is a faint white shimmer floating and reflecting. The night is cold and quiet. However, brilliant lights shone from the cultural palace, and jubilant laughter and applause could be heard from time to time. It turned out that it was Du Wanxiang who was in the cultural palace.
在楼上楼下都挤满了人的暖融融的大礼堂里，向全场职工汇报自己的工作和思想。他从他的幼年讲起，那穷僻的小山沟，那世世代代勤劳苦干，受尽剥削压迫。
He reported his work and thoughts to all the staff in the warm auditorium, which was packed with people both upstairs and downstairs. She started from her childhood, the remote valley, where generations of people worked hard and suffered exploitation and oppression.
而又蒙昧无知的人们的艰难岁月，在这样落后的受折磨的痛苦生涯中，他是多么幻想过另一个世界、另一种生活和另一种人与人的关系啊！
And in the difficult years of ignorant people, in such a backward and tortured life, how she imagined living another world, another life, and another kind of relationship between people.
听的人都跟着杜婉香走进了阴暗而沉重的时代，走进了劳苦人民的心灵。他们回想到自己，回想到被狂风暴雨侵袭鞭打过的祖祖辈辈。
Everyone who listened followed Du Wanxiang into the dark and heavy era, and into the hearts of the toiling people. They thought back to themselves and to their ancestors who had been whipped by violent storms.
回想到祖辈们的坚强的生的意志和斗争的毅力。尽管旧中国的头上曾经压着3座大山，但劳动人民显示了力量。杜婉香就是从无限的干旱的高原上挤出来、冒出来的一株小草。
Recalling the strong will to live and perseverance of struggle of our ancestors. Although there were 3 mountains weighing on the head of old China, the working people showed their strength, and Du Wanxiang was just a small grass that emerged from the infinite drought plateau.
是在风沙里傲然生长出来的一株红杏。杜婉香的汇报转到了革命胜利后带来的新的光辉天地。于是，一阵春风吹进文化宫的礼堂，人们被一种崭新的生活所鼓舞。广阔的。
It is a red apricot growing proudly in the wind and sand. Du Wanxiang's report turned to the new glorious world brought about by the victory of the revolution. So a spring breeze blew into the auditorium of the cultural palace, and people were inspired by a new life. The vast,
五彩绚丽的波涛随着杜婉香的朴素言辞滚滚而来。祖国，人民的祖国，你是多么富饶，多么广袤！你蔚蓝的明朗的天空，你新鲜柔嫩的草原，你参差栉比的村庄，你浓荫覆盖的绿色林带。
Colorful waves rolled in with Du Wanxiang's simple words, motherland. The people's motherland. How rich and vast are you! Your clear blue sky, your fresh and tender grasslands, your jagged villages, your green forest belts covered with thick shades.
你温柔多姿的河流，你雄伟的古城和繁华似锦的新都，一切，祖国的一切都拥抱着人们的心，每个人的心都如痴如醉，沉浸在幸福中，而又汹涌澎湃，只想驾狂风乘巨浪。
Your gentle and colorful river, your majestic ancient city and prosperous new capital, everything in the motherland embraces people's hearts, and everyone's heart is intoxicated, immersed in happiness, and the waves are surging, and I just want to ride the strong wind and ride the huge waves.
飞越高山大流，去展交秦龙。什么地方是最可爱的地方？是北大荒。什么事业是最崇高的事业？是开垦建设北大荒。什么人是最使人敬仰的人？是开天辟地，艰苦卓绝，坚韧不拔。
Fly over the mountains and rivers to slay the dragon and kill it. What is the cutest place? It's Beidawang. What is the noblest cause? It is the reclamation and construction of the great northern wilderness. Who is the most admired person? It is the creation of the world, arduous and persevering.
从斗争中取得胜利，从斗争中享受乐趣的北大荒人，他们远离家乡，为祖国开垦草泽荒原，为祖国守住北大门，保卫边疆，建设边疆。他们同传统的意识感情决裂，豪情满怀。
People from the great northern wilderness gain victory from the struggle and enjoy the fun from the struggle. They stay away from home, reclaiming grasslands and wastelands for the motherland, guarding the northern gate for the motherland, defending the border, and building the border. They broke with traditional consciousness and emotions and were full of pride.
建设现代化的社会主义农业基地，把自己锻炼为有高尚品德的新型劳动者。他们生产财富，创立文化。这里是祖国的边疆，却又紧紧联系着祖国的心脏。人们听到这里，
Build a modern socialist agricultural base and train yourself to become a new type of worker with noble moral character. They produce wealth and create culture. This is the frontier of the motherland, but it is closely connected to the heart of the motherland. People hear this.
从心中涌出一股热流，只想高呼：党阿，英明而伟大的党阿！你给人世间的是光明，是希望，是温暖，是幸福。我们将永远为你，为共护主义事业战斗。我们是属于你的。都晚香最后说道。
A stream of heat surges from my heart, and I just want to shout, party. Wise and great party. What you give to the world is light. It is hope. It is warmth. It is happiness. We will always be for you and our common household. Fight for the cause of communism, we belong to you. Du Wanxiang finally said.
我是一个普通人，做着人人都做的平凡的事。我能懂得一点道理，我能有今天，都是因为你们辛勤劳动的同志们和有理想的人们启发我，鼓励我。
I'm an ordinary person doing ordinary things that everyone does. I can understand a little bit. I am where I am today because of you, the hard-working comrades and people with ideals who inspire and encourage me.
我们全体又都受到党的教育和党的培养。我只希望永远在党的领导下，实事求是，老老实实按党的要求，为共护主义事业奋斗终身。杜晚香讲完了，站在台前。
All of us have been educated and trained by the party. I only hope that I will always be under the leadership of the party, seek truth from facts, and honestly abide by the party's requirements, and strive for the cause of communism throughout my life. Du Wanxiang finished speaking and stood in front of the stage.
谦虚地望着满礼堂的人微笑着，楼上楼下却依然鸦雀无声，人们还在等着，等着这宛如匆匆流水、袅袅琴音般的讲话继续下去。他们从他的讲话中看到了，听到了。
He looked at the auditorium full of people and smiled humbly. There was still silence upstairs and downstairs, and people were still waiting, waiting for the speech, which was like gurgling water and curling piano music, to continue. They saw and heard it in her speech.
感触到了自己还没有看到、没有听到、没有感触到的东西，或者看到过、听到过、感触到过，却又忽略了的现实生活和一些有意义的、发人深思的人和事。杜婉香没有引经据典。
Feeling things that I have not seen, heard, or felt, or real life and some meaningful and thought-provoking people and things that I have seen, heard, or felt but ignored. Du Wanxiang did not cite any classics.
但经典著作中的某些名言哲理都融合在他的朴素的讲话里了，就像庄稼吸收阳光雨露那样，一些好人、好事、好话都能浸润在他的心灵里边、血液里边，使他根深叶茂。
But some famous sayings and philosophies in classic works were integrated into her simple speeches. Just like crops absorb sunshine, rain, and dew, some good people, good deeds and good words can penetrate into her heart and blood, making her deeply rooted. Yi Mao.
使他能抵抗一切病毒。杜婉香没有慷慨激昂，有的只是亲切细致。不管他怎样令人敬仰信服，但他始终是那么平易近人，心怀坦白，朴实坚强，毫不虚夸，始终是一个蕴藏着火一样热情的。
Makes her resistant to all viruses. Du Wanxiang is not impassioned, but rather kind and meticulous. No matter how admirable and convincing she is always so approachable, frank, simple and strong, without any pretense, and is always a person with fire-like enthusiasm.
为大家所熟悉的杜婉香。这时，党委书记走进他的身边，紧紧地握住他的手，欣喜而又诚挚地说道：“婉香同志，你确实给我上了很好的一课，我代表大家谢谢你。”猛然
Du Wanxiang is familiar to everyone. At this time, the party committee secretary approached her, held her hand tightly, and said happily and sincerely, "Comrade Wanxiang, you really taught me a good lesson. I, on behalf of everyone, thank you." Suddenly,
礼堂里轰地响起了春雷似的掌声。从沉思中醒过来的广大职工，如同在深夜发现了一团火光似的，心中涌起了无限的希望。他们完完全全肯定了杜婉香，她不愧是我们的排头兵。
there was a thunderous applause in the auditorium. The vast number of employees who woke up from their meditation felt as if they had discovered a fire in the middle of the night, and infinite hope surged in their hearts. They completely affirmed Du Wanxiang, and she was worthy of being our vanguard.
我们一定要向她学习，和她共同前进。原载1979年7月，人民文学。
We must learn from her and move forward together with her. Originally published in People's Literature, July